Across the United States, independents and Republicans are switching their voter registrations to Democrat. Do they really want to become Democrats? Of course not. They admittedly want to be able to vote in the hotly contested Democratic primary. How will this affect party politics in Oregon and across the United States? What do you think, Mike?
Well, Chinese proverb, may you live in interesting times.
Exactly.
And these are interesting times. But there was an excellent article in the Oregonian, I think it was Michelle Cole, and talked about the 70,000 new Democrats in Oregon, of which about only 2/3 were converts, which means that about 1/3 of the new Democrats are newly registered. So the Democrats have to be very happy, and from what I've heard, they're happy to have anybody, even if they're only a temporary switch. Although I've also heard outrage that anybody would change parties just to try to manipulate or mess with somebody else's primary. But the parties control their own fate in that regard, so it's up to them. I think it's real exciting. It's especially exciting for Democrats. And I think the interesting thing is going to see if those people hang around, whether Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton gets nominated, if there's a sense of foul play, how many of those people are going to continue on and actually vote in the fall. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the turnout is come November.
There's roughly 1 million new Democratic voters that have registered that weren't previously registered, which really does bode quite well for the Democratic Party. But as with any newbies in this system, I have a feeling that they could be easily dissuaded because of shenanigans that go on at the convention or whatever happens, where the candidate that they came to register for seems to have gotten not such a great deal, or it sounds unfair, or it feels to them as the voter, which is most important, it feels unfair to them. But if they can get through the process and understand that that's just how politics works, it does bode well for a long-term generational switch in terms of what's going on in the voting public in America.
Well,
Are you a registered Democrat
Yes,
or Republican, Al?
I moved from non-affiliated to Democrat to vote in the primary. And like the Attorney General's race, there is no race other than the Democratic primary. And so I'm going to vote for the fellow that I think is going to do the best job in there and have some voice in that.
Who is that, Al?
The one that's not a state representative.
Kroger?
Yeah, right.
A
Kroger.
blatant plot.
And there's a couple other races that if I were in the 5th district, for instance, I might have changed to Republican, because I think the Republican winner there could well be the next Congress person.
You're making Ben Westland look stable here.
The real thing is, I think Oregon really should have an open primary where independents are not locked out of voting for their favorite candidate, whether it be Republican or Democrat. I think it's unfair that non-affiliated or independent voters don't have a real voice in the folks who are going to be, running the state or running the federal government.
No, I think you have parties for a reason, and if people get involved in a party, for the most part, they should stay with that party and get involved in it if they choose to. I hope some of these newly elected Democrats follow the process along, because it's really fun to be involved in the 1st district level, where you actually elect the delegates to the national convention, and then you elect people there that elect people on the state level. It's a little convoluted, but it's really fun, and you get to know people. Like for somebody that this might be the first presidential election, they should get involved, become involved in selecting the actual delegates and going clear through with it. And it's a pretty open process, so people can participate quite easily.
We'll have to see. I do think there's going to be more turnout on the Democrat side, and it makes it a very difficult year for the Republican candidate to win the presidency. And there's a lot of carryover down ballot for having that kind of turnout. But I do think that it's not all going to be there for the Democrats, not all of it, because both of their presidential candidates are driving two different groups of non-voters to come into the process. You know, Barack is energizing a lot of young people who I'm not sure will have as much energy to vote for Hillary, so not all of that's going to carry over for her.
That's a real understatement.
And then Hillary is, I believe, getting a lot of women who are not regular voters to come in and vote because there's a woman candidate. I know one in particular who is not going to be an enthusiastic Obama supporter and may very well not vote for him. So in both cases, whoever ends up as the nominee, there are going to be some voters who really only came into the process to vote for the other person who's no longer on the ballot.
Particularly if there's a thought that the process was rigged, or somehow that Hillary gets the nomination by hook or by crook and somehow manipulates the process to her benefit. I think awful lot of these new Democrats are going to be just outraged and with the feeling that it's politics as usual, so much for change, and I think they're going to be out of here.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Could I put a quick plug
Quick,
in
you can
for
get quick
super
one.
delegates? People say that's not a very good system, but one of the reasons that was put in was most of these people would have been elected delegates on the state level and competed with average voters. When you look at the delegates to National Convention from Oregon, take away the super delegates, the pre-selected ones, they're going to be pretty average citizens. There's going to be some union leaders, teachers, individual people that should be there making decisions.
All right, hold that thought.